You are now listening to Green Room Gossip. Welcome to another episode of Green Room Gossip, coming to you from the Appel Center for the Performing Arts in historically edgy downtown York, Pennsylvania. This week's episode, I feature JJ Sheffer. She is the mastermind behind the pop-up concert series Kable House Presents, York Story Slam, SkillSwap, and York Crafted. She is an awesome person. I loved this interview. So fun. We talked about a variety of different subjects, her favorite albums, up-and-coming musicians, how she's dealing with COVID-19 as a pop-up series, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for talking to me today, especially since we've been working together on the National Independent Venue Association stuff, trying to save our theaters.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, of course. The first question is really just to tell people a little bit about yourself, how you ended up running the pop-up that has done so incredibly well and brought live music to York, and anything you just want to share.
Sure. Well, so I run a pop-up concert series called Kable House Presents. It was actually the brainchild of Sean Kenny, who started the Cap Live series at your venue. His idea to do that because at the time he was still booking Cap Live. Let's see, before the renovation, what was the seat count there? You had like a 475 cap or something. You know, we would both sometimes book shows at Sign of the Wagon, a really great house concert venue down the street. That was maybe a 50 cap, and there was nothing in between. So he was finding that he would have to pass on bands that were too big for the house concert, but didn't really have the draw that was needed for the Capitol. So, and he was also, I guess he's still on the board of Central Market, and that's my favorite building anywhere. I love that building, and it was really sitting empty most nights other than maybe First Fridays. And they were available, making it available to rent for special events, but people didn't really know that yet. So this was a way to kind of draw attention to that, to have that in-between size room. We're 160 cap. So he got me, and I brought a couple more volunteers on. So there were 4 of us that launched it. And then at the end of that first season, we did 16 shows, our first season, from fall of 2014 through, actually, the last show of our first season was on my birthday. So June 19th of 2015 was our final show of the first season. So I'll always remember that date. You know, everybody else who was involved at the end of that season went off to do other volunteer projects. And so I had to decide, like, do I want to go? I'm holding the ball. Am I going to keep running with it? We had really just gotten started, and it was just a really wonderful community that was coalescing around it. So I kept it going, and we've now, COVID shut us down in the middle of our 6th season.
How many people have come through and watched a show?
So up until COVID forced us to shut down, we've hosted more than 60 shows.
Yeah.
We've had more than 6,300 butts in seats, attendees. And the thing that I'm most proud of is that we've paid almost $63,500 to artists directly.
That is what's so cool about the pop-up, that your whole plan is that it really is about the music, and it's really about the people putting the music out there and putting all their work into it.
We're fortunate to not have overhead because we don't have our own brick and mortar venue. So I don't have a mortgage or a lease to worry about. I don't have staff. Everything is contracted. So we're able to really operate lean and mean.
Well, and that actually segues into my next question, which is basically, I mean, I know you and I know about this, but for the lay person, how has it impacted you specifically?
Kable House Presents, being a pop-up series, is going to weather this fine. We had a really good fundraising season this year, which is what we normally do in the spring and summer. And like I said, we don't have those ongoing overhead expenses like most independent venues continue to have, even though they have zero revenue coming in. So I'm really concerned that we won't be able to keep going anyway, because we're starting to see independent venues all over the country start to have to shut down. They have those ongoing hard costs and no revenue, sometimes negative revenue. And if they start disappearing, more of them start disappearing, there won't be a touring route anymore for touring musicians to take. I mean, touring is very expensive for the artists. Depending on sort of what level you're at in your career, when you hit the road, maybe you'll break even on a tour, maybe not, depending on how many people you have on the road with you, if you're taking a band and equipment and whatever. And so, if you have to drive 6-8 hours to get to the next venue and they can't be spaced a little bit better, or there aren't enough to do a whole tour, it's going to be like dominoes. The venues are going to go, then all of their hospitality staff, their production crews, the artists themselves. I mean, it's probably going to look very different after this. And I don't think anyone knows yet what it's going to look like, because not only are we were the first to have to close because of large gatherings with people sitting close together, we're going to be the last to reopen, especially because once we know that it's safe to gather together again, that's when we can start planning. But if you figure you're planning a tour, that takes 4 to 6 months before we actually, from the time we book a show until we host it.
That's the thing to note too. For us, we have seen so far, people lose their jobs. We've seen pretty incredible theaters shuttering. For me, I always used to go to Philly. I used to go to the TLA, the Electric Factory, all that stuff. And I think we were really lucky with Give Local York, and again with fundraising, that people are putting their cash money into saving us, which is incredible.
Well, and it's interesting that it's going to be left to the fans and the artists to save it. Part of this NEVA outreach to really beg lawmakers to offer some assistance. If it's been mandated that we shut down because it's not safe, but then they don't offer a way to help sustain it through that, the whole industry is going to collapse. And I know that music fans are really this could get me started on a whole other tangent of like how angry I am at predatory businesses like Spotify that don't serve the artist. The whole industry is not artist focused. And so it's so difficult already to have a sustainable career as an artist. And this is really exposed in a lot of ways about a lot of things in our country. But for me, this is the thing I'm closest to, how precariously it was balanced to begin with.
And I mean, that does segue into my next question, which was, you are very knowledgeable about music. So I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, who is the next big thing? Who are they? Is it a genre? Is it a specific person? Is it a band?
Man, that's such a good question. And sometimes I feel like because I'm so kind of plugged into this is what I surround myself with, I'll try to book a band because I feel like this band is about to get too big for me to afford them. And if I don't get them on that tour, a lot of times the next tour, I can't afford them, and sometimes I'll kick them over to you guys and say, maybe it would fit into your schedule because I can't put them in my little room anymore. Like I said, it's whatever you get yourself plugged into. And for me, it's music. So all of my social media stuff that I follow, everything that I read, the podcast I listen to, everything is about music so that I can, find out people whose tastes I align with. What are they looking at right now so that I can keep an eye out for it. So like my biggest, this doesn't really answer your question, but my biggest missed opportunity, I feel like, was I tried to book Nathaniel Rateliff. And the booking agent at the time was like, oh yeah, that tour's already really full. There's really no night off when they're in your area. So maybe next time they come through, we'll reach out to you. Well, that show, I think he was booked at Johnny Brandes, somewhere really small originally. And they moved it maybe to the TLA, somewhere a little bit bigger. Well, the next time he came through, he played the Fillmore or something, there was just no way. So that's happened a couple of times where I just, they slipped out of my grasp before I really had an opportunity. So next big thing, I don't know, this year, the newer stuff that I've really been into, that new Black Pumas record is really so good. Devin Gilfillian I've been getting pretty into.
I like the missed opportunity one. That's a better question. That's the question I should have asked. That's a good one.
Oh man, there are so many ones that got away.
Okay, so this is a question that also relates to that, and this could be hard, but I wanted to ask you, what are your top 3 albums?
Of all time?
If you can. I know it's hard.
What are you trying to do to me?
I know. Just like the first 3 albums that you really love that just come to mind.
Okay. I'm sitting with this propped up on my record, or one of my record shelves, so I'm going to pull out a couple to show you. Okay, one of the first ones that comes to mind that I always, probably my favorite conversation topic, especially as I'm getting to know people, is perfect albums. What are the albums that you put on? You never skip a track. You listen all the way through. They're perfect. Like Graceland, Pet Sounds, Pearl Jam 10, that kind of thing. And this one is one I always recommend because not everybody knows it already. It's Michael Trent, who is one half of Shovels and Rope. The album is called The Winner, and it is perfect. I love it so much. So that comes to mind immediately. I'm just going to pull 2 more at random. And I'm going to pick a couple that your listeners may not know, but I think they should. Okay, this one is a band that's very near and dear to my heart. That's the wrong album. Deer Tick. Sorry, not Deer Tick. Also Deer Tick. I love Deer Tick. Yeah. Brown Bird. And the record I'm going to show you is called Salt for Salt. I'm picking this one because it has my favorite Brown Bird song on it. Also, all of their album artwork is excellent. It's done by a Rhode Island artist named William Schaff. He did a lot of stuff for Jason Molina. He did a couple of Strand of Oaks records. Ockerville River, he does their album art. So he's worth following too, as a visual artist. But yeah, Brown Bird, Salt for Salt is really up there. Here's another good missed opportunity story, actually. When we started Kable House Presents, I really wanted Brown Bird to be the first band that we featured. I felt really strongly about it. I thought it would be a perfect way to kick things off. But around that time, David Lamb, it was a husband and wife duo. I'm friends with the wife now, but the husband had leukemia. Oh, and, while we were doing our fundraising and our planning, he seemed to be doing better. He got a bone marrow transplant. My best friend was playing drums with them, and it sort of sounded like they'd be maybe cleared to hit the road again in the fall, which would have aligned with when we were starting up. So he got sick again, he relapsed and was gone like pretty quickly. And so we never got to host them. But his wife, Morgan Eve, sent by way of my best friend, James, a Brown Bird t-shirt because our backdrop is basically like a big t-shirt quilt that we hang down over the mezzanine at the market.
That's awesome.
And so we put the t-shirt in what I think is like the most prominent spot on that backdrop. And then the end of our second or third season, I forget which now, her new band came and was our season closer. And they were just incredible. I mean, it was such a good show. So she's played a couple times at our series. I think the first Jason Isbell album I ever bought was before I started listening to him. I was in a record store. I don't remember what album that would have been, but I looked at it sitting up on the shelf and I thought, he's real great on Twitter. I bet he's also a really great lyricist. He seems like a good writer. And so I got it, I've been a huge fan ever since. That was probably like 10 or something. All right, I picked my third album.
I'm ready.
This was my favorite album of 2018. It's Glorietta.
Oh, that's awesome.
Titled. This is cool artwork too. I don't remember this artist's name. I feel bad about that, but it's a super group convened by Matt Vasquez from Delta Spirit, Brother, my other favorite super group. But it's him, Noah Gunderson, Kelsey Wilson from Wild Child, David Ramirez, who I love. He has a really great new record out this year, also a couple months ago. Adrian Casada from Black Pumas. Jason Robert Blum, if I didn't say him yet. I'm probably missing some other people in that band. A guy that I know is, he didn't play drums on the record, but played drums with them on the very short tour they did, Judd Johnson. Anyway, I love this record, and it also has my favorite song of 2018 on it, which I heard, the first time I saw them play was at Newport, and I was very excited about it. I had read so much about them, but the album wasn't out yet. So I saw them live without knowing a single one of their songs. 2 different songs in that set made me just ugly cry off under the tent in Newport. And then the album came out and they did a short tour that fall. And I took a friend of mine who also had never heard the music to see them at, I think, the Rock and Roll Hotel in DC. So she had never heard the songs either. And the same 2 songs afterwards, I looked over at her and she was bawling. So it's not just me. But that record is probably the one I've listened to the most in the last few years. I have it on vinyl for in the house and on CD for in the car.
I love that the vinyl has a jalapeno on it.
Yeah, there's a song they have called Heat Stroke, and the video is just people eating hot peppers. I'm actually thinking about getting that pepper tattooed on me when we can get back to getting tattooed without, fear of contracting the virus.
So this is an interesting question. I heard that you call your son Pants.
Oh, that's true.
If I can ask this, if it's not too personal.
So when he was an infant, my mom would call him Mr. Silly Pants. And when he got to be a toddler, it got shortened to Silly. And then as he got older and went to school, it was like too much of a baby name. So we formalized it and started calling him Mr. Pants. And then people around downtown York, because downtown York is like Sesame Street, like even the mailman knows your name.
Yes.
They started calling him The Pants. So he was The Pants for a long time. And then it just eventually got shortened to Pants and stuck through most of his life. And now like his grown-up friends call him that. None of his friends call him that. But he's still Pants to me.
I honestly really wished that had been just his given Christian name. Like I wished you had just gone full Pants. Okay, so this is my last question. I know you have cats. So first, do you have more than one?
Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, stay at home, I had 2 cats.
Yes.
And Mrs. D passed away a few months ago. She had kidney failure, and I was really glad that, I was home with her and spending all this time with her. But man, it was rough because when I realized something was wrong and took her to the vet, like you couldn't go inside the vet's offices. You just rolled in the parking lot and they came and got the carrier. So she spent her last few days there with them trying to help her, and we didn't get to say goodbye. However, so she was named Mrs. Darling after the mother in Peter Pan. Yeah, I'm a kind of a Peter Pan freak, which is a whole other conversation. So my other cat, I'm sure your listeners can't see, but you can, is Gonzo. And Mrs. D loved everybody. Gonzo has only truly ever loved me. And she's named in honor of Hunter S. Thompson.
I was just going to say, is that a Hunter reference?
I'm also like a huge Jim Henson fan, so it sort of does double duty there. But she and I have always been very clingy with each other, but since Mrs. D passed away, Gonzo does not let me out of her sight. I think she probably figures her friend disappeared and maybe I will too. So if I go out to get the mail, she's like waiting with her feet up at the door, like looking out, yelling at me like, where are you going? So we've been spending 24 hours a day together since like March.
You are unknowingly making the case for cats because I am always a dog person, but every time I have someone I know that has a cat, I'm like, but their cat is so sweet.
Well, when Carter's Pants, when his dad moved out, we got Gonzo right around that time. Carter wanted a dog, and in the before times, I was never home enough to have a dog, so I got cats that acted like dogs. Yeah. And I grew up with cats, so that was an easy thing to do. And then his dad got remarried, and they have had dogs, so he really gets the best of both. He had cats at my house and dogs at theirs.
I love it. Reason for that question was, what is the most cat lady thing you've ever done?
Man, I feel like there's probably a lot. I talk to her constantly. Like anyone who knows me well knows about my cat. My camera roll after spending 24 hours a day with only Gonzo since March 12th is just hundreds of pictures of Gonzo. In fact, my son, Pants, on an iPhone, you have the finger ID thing to unlock it. Yeah. So I've always had mine and his so that he can get into it if he needs to. And one time he opened it and he said to me something about a picture. And I was like, well, maybe I don't want you going through my pictures. And he turns the phone around. He's like, why? It's just, and he starts like swiping, cat. And it absolutely was.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my mom does way more like weird cat lady stuff than I do. Like we joke in our family that she grooms licks one of her cats, which I'm not sure how much of a joke that is. I think if given the opportunity, she absolutely would groom them. But yeah, I just, I don't get up if she's on my lap, no matter how bad I have to pee, because you don't want to disturb them when they're comfortable.
To end on a note of, if anybody wants to donate or follow you or any platform you want to put out there.
For information about the concert series, it's kablehousepresents.com, Kable with a K, Kable. There's links on the website to get to our Facebook and Twitter, that kind of thing. If you'd like to donate, certainly you can through there as well. I personally am on social media at Busted JJ. Be happy to have you follow along. I do a lot of posting about music, recommendations, album recommendations, that kind of thing. Used to be a lot of live music photos, but not so much lately. The one silver lining to concerts being live streamed now is that I can enjoy them with my cat. I can sit with my cat on my lap, and I have a friend in Philadelphia, a couple, and they sent me a photo during the Dawes live stream on Friday night and said their cat Honey Mustard was watching, and the cat is like sprawled out in front, like just clearly rapt with attention, and I sent back a picture of Gonzo on my lap watching with me too. So I'll miss that someday, but not so much that I'm not ready to go back to enjoying live.
I think we're gonna have a love-hate relationship with this period in time in the future.
I've been trying not to feel guilty about it, but I've been recognizing how immensely privileged I am to have, been able to find some good in this situation and continue to get paid, which has been good, which has allowed me to shift my focus to advocacy and a little bit of self-care, which was never part of my life prior to this. One other thing I probably should have plugged during, I want to say sometime in March through, I don't know, there were 12 weeks that every Sunday I interviewed people from the music community through Instagram Live, and then I had a friend download the videos for me. So they're on the Kable House Presents YouTube channel. And it's really interesting to look back on those now in aggregate and see kind of the story arc of the very beginning when everything shut down and we thought it was just going to be for, a month or something. People were sort of deer in the headlights and really worried about it. And then as it went on, I would interview people and they were kind of settling into it and feeling really grateful that they were getting to be at home, because if you're on the road all the time, you don't get to have a garden or whatever. They were getting to be at home for a longer period of time than usual, and they were taking those opportunities to, be creative or whatever. And then toward the end, the last few weeks were right after George Floyd was murdered, and we talked about the role of the arts and music in particular in helping people to make sense of things and to figure out a way forward and how we can be more equitable in our industry. So I'm really proud of that series. It's very low tech, lo-fi, but they are up on YouTube if anybody's interested in looking at them.
That's awesome.
We have a long way to go, but I feel like it's been really encouraging too in a lot of ways.
JJ, thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you.
If you want to keep up with us and get more behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram at Green Room Gossip Podcast and on Twitter at GRGPod. For more information about the Appel Center for the Performing Arts in York, Pennsylvania, visit appelcenter.org or call our box office at 717-846-1111. Thanks for listening.